Friends, I have a question for you. What's even better than learning about the theory, the depths of the trenches of what a writing discipline is all about? The principles, the rules, the processes, the frameworks. What's better than that? Right. Applying that knowledge in practice, practicing your writing. And that's exactly what we're going to do today in this video, which is part of my new series. So if you're excited to do some quick writing exercises with me, let's do this. Hi, my name is Kat and I teach people about writing in tech, and on this very channel right here you will find everything that you need to know about writing, telling a great story and making the world a better place with words. So if you care about all of that just as much as I do, make sure you hit subscribe and ring the bell. So welcome to this video, which is part of my new series in which we will practice writing and rewriting copy of all kinds together. There will be beginner, intermediate and advanced videos so that you can find exactly the right level for you. However, even when you consider yourself an advanced writer, I kindly invite you to write with us because number one, it's fun. Number two, you might still learn something. And number three, you might want to add something like additional knowledge or tricks or anything that helped you in the comments, if you like. And speaking of the comments, and this goes for everybody watching, if you want to take this short amount of time, do some writing practice with me, and you feel comfortable with it, feel free to share your draft in the comments if you like. And if not, that's cool too. No pressure here. This is a safe space for learning. You can do whatever you feel comfortable with. And now if you're ready, grab some pen and paper or your digital notepad or your notes app or whatever you use to write digitally, and then let's do this. Now, a quick disclaimer before we start. We will work with a lot of real examples from real apps and real websites, so please keep in mind that these were also written by real people. So let's always keep that in mind, keep it respectful. The perspective here is we don't make bad things good, we make existing things better because the people, the brands and the users alike deserve good copy. Okay, so let's do this. Now today we are going to rewrite an empty state screen that could be improved. But before we get to the actual writing part, we should definitely talk about what makes good UX writing and also what makes a good empty state. Because one of the main problems that I personally see with many of these, UX writing challenges out there is that they just throw a screen or a piece of copy at beginners and are like, okay, just write something. And then people write from the top of their heads, just anything that comes to mind. And then they get feedback or not from whoever is there to give them feedback. But there's rarely any guidance and rarely any preparation, any teaching, any theory. And if you don't have that, but you just write what comes to your mind, that is not professional writing. All the single writing disciplines that we're looking at, be it UX writing, technical writing, fiction, non-fiction, poetry, all of them follow certain principles. And that's exactly why before we start practicing our writing, we will take a look at those principles so that we don't write just random stuff, but work systematically, strategically, and professionally. And therefore, let's first talk about the principles that are relevant for today's task. And these are the quality criteria that every UX writing piece should adhere to. And on the internet and in books, you will find other various slightly different sets of criteria, but all in all, they pretty much cover the same or similar criteria. Now, since this is a practice video, I want you to take a second right now. Don't look it up, but take a second and write down what you know or think these criteria are. If you don't know them from the top of your head, that's okay. You can just write down what you think they are, okay? What are the quality criteria for good UX writing? Press pause here and answer that question for yourself, okay? And then come back when you're done and hit play again and we will discuss that. So, are you ready? Let me show you the set of quality criteria for UX writing that I have worked with over the years. Now, first, what we have is necessary. Necessary as a quality criterion in UX writing means that a text is really the best way to guide the user in a certain situation. Not a design solution, but a verbal writing solution. Then we have clear, which means that we convey our message in an easy to understand, unambiguous, non-confusing way, so that the meaning of the text element becomes clear immediately. Then we have concise, which means the copy is written in a way that is as short as it can get without harming the user experience or the brand. Then we have useful. Useful means that the copy should be written in a constructive way that helps guide the user to solve their problem and move forward. Then we have conversational, so we speak to the user in a natural human way. We avoid tech jargon or overly technical language because that may cause several kinds of friction in the user experience. For example, it might make things unclear, it might intimidate the user or scare them off, etc. Then we have branded, so our UX copy should represent our brand properly. For example, if you are a serious, toned down brand, but you go overly crazy with wordplay and jokes and humor, that gives the user an inconsistent brand experience. So we want to keep that in mind as well. And ultimately, we have inclusive, which is the absolute baseline criteria of good UX writing, because your UX copy can be perfectly branded, can be perfectly useful. If it discriminates against the user or even insults the user, it cannot be good UX writing. Now, the tricky part really is that these criteria need to be carefully balanced. So in some parts of the user journey, branded might be more important than concise and vice versa. And what really makes a good experienced senior UX writer is knowing when to prioritize which criteria, depending on the goal and the context of a text element. So this was a very quick rundown. If you want the details, if you want to dive deeply into this, if you want to have real, true education on how to master these criteria and understand how to balance them, definitely make sure to check out my Introduction to UX Writing course, because that is exactly what we do over there, including much more, like understanding the psychology behind UX writing. It's an absolutely amazing course. I could say that with confidence. It has gotten tens of thousands of 5-star reviews on several platforms, and it is definitely the most value for money that you will get out there when it comes to a UX writing course. So definitely make sure to check it out. The link is in the description box below. So these are our quality criteria, the theoretical foundation that we need for our writing exercise for today. Now let's take a look at today's example, the example that we want to review and rewrite today based on these criteria. And today we're looking at an empty state. So let's also learn a little bit about empty states. Now, empty states appear when users have a space to fill and the space is not filled yet. That could be a list of your favorite shows in your streaming app. It could be an album folder in your photo app, or also a contact list to which the user has not added contacts yet. So the situation is we have these spaces which are usually filled with several items, and these spaces are empty now. There are no items, which means that we usually in empty states have some room for the copy that we write, which is good news because it means we don't have to make our copy too short, like too concise. We usually have enough space here. Now, the purpose of an empty state is usually twofold. Since the user is looking at literally an empty space right now, we need to tell them that this is an empty space, like a space that is usually filled with stuff, but it's not filled yet. And second, we need to let the user know that they can fill that space or how that space will be filled. So for example, if we only tell the user, hey, this is a contact list and it's empty, that might cause confusion. Like the user might wonder, will the space be filled automatically? Should I import my contacts? How do I even add contacts to that space? Etc., etc. So these are the two goals. Here you can see an example for that coming from Patterned Fly, and you can see the information that the space is empty on top of it and below how it is filled. Or you can take a look at this one coming from Google's material design. Here we can see the fact that this space is empty, and below again how it can be filled. Another interesting variation is this one coming from SAP. On top we have the information that this space is empty, and below how it will be filled. It will be filled not by the user, but it will be filled automatically. So these are some examples for empty states. Now let's get to this session's example. Now in this example right here, you can see another typical case for when to use an empty state, and that is when search results should be displayed, but there were no results for the user's search. Then we might see something like this. A typical empty state for such a context. And this right here is happening inside an AI tool called Creer, with which you can generate and edit images and videos. And the search here can be used to find already existing assets, like files that can then be pulled onto the canvas. And when there were no matches for the search, this empty state is what you get. Now again, I would like you to press pause for a moment and think about what might be wrong here. Just hit pause, think about this for yourself, review this piece of copy, and when you think you have an idea, come back, press play again, and we will discuss it. And when you are ready with reviewing this piece of copy, let's take a look at it together and discuss it. And let's do that by taking a look at the UX writing quality criteria, and let's go through each one of these criteria to check if this piece of copy adheres to them. Now, what we see here is that it's definitely necessary, like not giving any kind of information after no results were found for a search. That is no option. And there's also not a really good design solution that would work without words. So it's definitely necessary. Clear? Yes, there is no confusion here. There are no results found for our search. Conciseness, yeah, is fine as well. They don't waste too many words here. It's one sentence, and yes, we could make that even shorter and say no results found, but it's not about getting as short as possible. We have enough space here, so that's fine. But the next criterion seems to be relevant. Useful. Is that really useful? Is it constructive? Does it guide the user to the next step? Not really. So that is a problem. Let's mark that. Conversational, however, does not seem to be a problem either. It's phrased in a natural, non-technical language, no jargon, no problem. And then the next one is the criterion of branded. And for that, let's take a quick look at their brand voice. Did you do that when I asked you to press pause? Is that something that you did? Let me know in the comments if you took a look at the way they speak on their website, because if you did, then I'm very proud of you and I want to let you know, okay? So let me know in the comments. Now, just a few words about voice and tone. Voice and tone are both a science and an art in themselves. But for starters, for beginners, we can simply look at the brand voice of Creer by scrolling through their website to get an idea. And what we see here is short sentences, big, bold promises. We read words like powerful, best. We see power, we see big numbers, that simple UI. So they're very simplistic, but they are also very bold, very confident in their tone in almost all their writing. And now when we look back at the text element that we want to review, we see it doesn't necessarily support the brand voice in a strong way, but it also doesn't go against it. So it could be better, yeah, but there is no red flag here. And of course, lastly, but most importantly, is it inclusive? Well, it's not perfectly accessible, but that's only because it's not useful. It doesn't guide the user, but it does not necessarily exclude or insult certain user groups. So as far as that is concerned, we're okay. The problem is definitely the usefulness here. So looking at this, you can see that we've got one major problem here and one kind of minor problem. The rest is okay. So let's see, how can we fix that? Again, you've guessed it, press pause here and see what you would do. First of all, to get the big red flag out of the way, the usefulness, and make this piece of copy more constructive. Do something to guide the user. Doesn't have to be big changes, just see how we can make this a little more useful to the user and add that second aspect of the empty state that we discussed a little earlier. And if you want to, you can go visit the website of that brand Korea, but I don't even think that you need that. Just think of what could be a good recommendation for the user here. And when you have an idea, write it down. And when you're happy with it, press play again and let's compare results. So, are you ready to go? Then let's take a look at what we can do here and let's focus on increasing the usefulness of this text first. Now the situation is this. The user searches for a file, one that they created or edited in this tool, and there are no search results, right? That is what happens here. And now what we can do to improve that situation is we can make different suggestions to the user about how they can go on. One suggestion could be to check the spelling and try again. Another suggestion could be to send the user over to browse their assets to see if they can find there what they're looking for. And of course, make this a link. We could also combine the two and say, check your spelling and try again, or browse your files. And this option would probably also be the solution that I would go with personally. So now that we have moved the big red flag out of the way, we can also take a look at the branding criterion here. The overall voice of Korea is simple and confident, and we definitely could think about how to add even more brand voice to this, but if you ask me, we don't need that. The brand voice is overall simple and confident, not very emotional, not very empathetic, so using something like "don't worry" or something similar would not even make a lot of sense, okay? So I personally decide that we don't need that here. We're good to go with this solution right here. We now might want to think about whether or not we could make this more concise, since this solution right here just became much longer. So maybe we change it into this right here, but that is about it. It's good to go, at least for me. And now you also got an idea how we should always carefully prioritize and balance and ultimately harmonize these quality criteria for each and every piece of copy. And when you are a beginner, this might feel a little overwhelming and very technical, but as you advance in your craft, you will become faster and more intuitive with this. Now, I hope this was a little helpful and I hope you had some fun writing together. If you want to share your drafts in the comments, I would love to read them. Maybe you came up with something that's better than what I did. Let's learn, let's discuss with each other, and let's also learn from each other, okay? Now, apart from that, make sure to check out writewithdrkat.com for more writing education. Make sure you sign up to my newsletter, the UX Writing Memo, so that you don't miss out on a thing. A link is also in the description box below. And apart from that, as always, there's nothing left to say for me except keep on writing, enjoy the process, and I hope to see you sometime soon.